Mm. All right. Just a second. All right.
Must
Um,
be early for you.
it is, it is. I'm trying to get in the habit of waking up about at 4 a.m. every day. So this is supposed to be normal for me. Although I only fell asleep at I think 11 last night, and so I'm still I'm tired, but this isn't so bad. Um, yeah. So uh we met on Twitter, and
Yeah.
I've been trying to get different people on this podcast 'cause I'm trying to start a podcast. And I love talking to people who are interested in ideas, and we'll have some differences because I am a former atheist and you are an atheist, and
Wow.
yeah, and there's been some changes um to I know atheists don't like being called a community because like atheist is very just like a very singular belief, and so there's a lot of variation within atheists. But I'm curious to see like what that's like, because when I was an atheist, like the main guys were the Four Horsemen. Christopher Hitchens had already passed away, but like I kind of was on the tail end of that, like kind of right after his passing, if I believe. And so I kind of caught up on all those debates and had like a great time watching those.
Okay.
It really kind of solidified my
Um,
yeah. So tell me about what your journey was like.
I think either my internet's not working or either yours.
Your internet's not working that well? Excuse me?
Yeah, I think my internet doesn't work for a minute. Yeah.
Do you need to fix something real fast? Oh,
Internet went out for a minute.
oh, you're good. You're good. Cool.
Hello.
Hi, I can hear you.
Okay, so why did you turn into a believer from an atheist?
I mean, it was a couple things. I think the main one was like the realization that I was kind of being like almost like autistically obsessed with the way the world works, in a sense of like that it's made of props and objects, and it didn't really, well, it came together with the idea that like, oh, it's in the same way that molecules come together to make something that's like flowing water that's like has very confusing properties if you just look at like the little mechanistic elements, you could say. But I realized that the world's a story. And so I had always had this love for film and stuff, and that was actually my atheism was actually kind of beating that down. Like, I'd watch a movie and be like, oh, well, none of this is like real. This is all just kind of like just I don't know, a pointlessness. Um, but yeah, well, I realized that, oh, like the world is a story, and the artistic realm is kind of a different. I want to say operates with different and a different with different rules, but it operates on a higher abstract level, and it becomes so complex that like it's very hard to bridge those two things together. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but in that when we're looking at stories, like you can imagine you could like extract out a bunch of people's daily stories, and then you extract those into like a movie, and then you can extract out a bunch of movies together, and then you can basically get like a myth, and that just keeps going higher and higher until you get these very meta religious stories that explain the whole universe in very very strange ways, but there are ways that are timeless ways of understanding things. And it's crucial to get that if you want to avoid living a comedy or a tragedy. You know what I mean? And like a comedies and tragedies are real, you know, and trying to interpret your suffering in a way that'll be most fruitful. And in doing that, you know, over a lot of years, like essentially, like I just started to believe in like something like a behavioral god for a while. Or not a behavioral god, like a god that exists in perception. That basically you can imagine that like okay, in evolution, um, people who end up like cheating and going behind people's backs or not doing like proper sacrifices, even when people aren't watching, that those groups will behave worse. In fact, you can even do this in classrooms where you can put like an eye on the wall. And when you do that, people are most less likely to cheat because they feel like they're being watched just with the picture. And so I'm like, okay, so if I just kind of believe that everything I do matters infinitely instead of that everything is purposeless, um, then we'll see what just happens. And so I started kind of pretending God was real for a while. And it wasn't until like a couple of years of doing that, like maybe two and a half, that I actually started to have this feeling like, oh, like it feels like the God of my childhood has returned in a way. And I couldn't really explain what that was like, um, or how exactly that happened. And it's been a slow process of with the best word I could say is just revelation of seeing the truth of the Bible in deeper and deeper ways. And you know, and also I think a lot of that fundamental switch is as far as like accepting that everything matters infinitely instead of everything doesn't matter. That you know it matters infinitely nothing. Um, although I think there's like the rational element of like, well, I'm infinitely small. I think the argument that size actually has anything important to do with what's important, what's meaningful, I don't think that actually um, makes that much sense. I mean, for one, I'm not even sure if like the universe actually exists in any understandable way without a subject. I'm not sure how objects exist without a subject. That's kind of a weird argument. I don't want to get into that too much, but um, I, I think one of the reasons why people fall into that is because I think there is kind of an element of desire because like if everything's meaningless, then I can kind of just do whatever I want. You know what I mean? I can just kind of design my life around a level of pleasure. But that won't be satisfying. And actually, I found that I was actually, I didn't really realize until this afterwards, but I was viciously depressed. And I, you know, it's funny because I didn't even think I could call what I was depressed because I'm like, how is this just not just me just seeing the truth of reality that everything is pointless because I'm going to die and that like nothing's going to matter. And well, strangely enough, there's another way of looking at the world
Hmm.
that everything matters infinitely, I guess. And so that was a big switch, I guess. Yeah.
So I am a different kind of atheist. I do think that religion plays an important role in society, for the moral purpose. You know, as you said, that when you don't know that if someone is watching you, you kind of don't really be moral. It's actually like that. And sometimes people do think that God exists and God is watching you and therefore do less cruel things, let's say. But my problem is that when they try to mix it with science, like when they claim that, hey, that Big Bang wasn't real and God made the universe, at that times I say, okay, wait, stop. And I do think that there are some toxic people here. I mean, there are some people who are toxic and write about toxic things about religion. I'm not kind of like that person, but for me to actually express my opinions, people need to hear them, and for that, I have to make my posts clickbaity enough to gain engagement and talk with people.
I understand that. I do that sometimes too. Um, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so because if I just say that, hey, I don't believe in this stuff because I think this is like this, no one is going to reply. But if I make that a photo and let's get some dude here, that will farm more engagement and people will speak.
Yeah, no, that
And
yeah.
yeah, go on.
No, I'm saying that makes sense. Although I think we'll probably have some divergence because like if you ask me if God created the universe, I would say yes. Um, so like
Could be
even
because
if
I
like if you
haven't.
ask me does the story of like Genesis did that actually happen, I would say like yes, and it also happens like every day. You know what I mean? It's just that it's something that's a truth that it's expressed in a timeless way. And frankly, like the description that happens in Genesis is oftentimes looks very much, I think, looks like what leads people to atheism. Because I think what one of the things that actually is, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to interpret it, and like I'm gonna run into more as I get older. But like a big part of it is, I mean, humans I think have a tendency to overly know things and are awake to the material world that other creatures aren't. And I think that has to do with our worship of knowledge in a way. And so like the idea that like once they encounter the snake that they realize that they're gonna die and then they have to start building technology and wearing clothes and stuff like that. It's like, oh, like that's like the first wake up to nihilism for humans. It's like we were experiencing the world as conscious creatures from the beginning of time. And it's hard. This is very hard because I'm like, I'm worried about saying things because it's such a hard book. Um, we're experiencing things as conscious creatures from the beginning of time, and suddenly we just had this wake up to, oh, we're not the center. Like the sun is actually in the center of the universe. You know what I mean? And so it's
Yeah, I mean, the
continual. Yeah.
heliocentric model did cause some problems with the church and all.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that guy, that guy was actually killed for that,
Yes.
I think. And that was kind of cruel because he stated facts there.
Yes. 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 And well, I
Yeah,
think
but that could be like it was the creation, but it's more likely that it's not because, the more we explore about the cosmos, the more we don't know about the universe. It kind of makes me personally think that there is no creator because there is millions of stars dying every day, literal stars. And theoretically speaking, the Earth will someday end. The population has to end sometime. It's called the Great Filter, and you could call it in your mathological terms that the flood will happen again or
yeah, I
something like
call it the
that.
flood.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
because like it's like um there has to be something which stops us from colonizing the entire galaxy because if it wasn't the case, we already would have aliens everywhere.
Are you sure? Like, okay. Like, I'm not convinced. I mean, hey, I'm not saying like, well, isn't there good arguments to say that like, that human beings might be towards the forefront? I mean, I know it's like, well, it's so huge, but like, I guess like what I don't find that argument that convincing that like, oh, that there must be something that would stop us because we don't see aliens in space. Like, first of all, the universe is very vast, and
There
like,
could be that there is nothing like there might be nothing that stops us because we might be the first people who sort of evolved or popped into the existence, whatever you want to believe, because it's like that. But I do think if the great filter is ahead of us, we have a problem because something could end us, something like an extinction event, because it really did end the dinosaurs, whether you believe in them or not.
no, yeah.
Because they existed. We have the fossils because
No, and I think all those
no,
extinction,
it's
I think
like
those extinction events are actually lodged in our psychology. And that's one of the reasons why there's always like apocalyptic myths. Um, whatever. That's a word, but
yeah, but the boat theory, the boat in the Bible,
yeah.
Noah's Ark, that is kind of too much,
Well,
I do think
how else would you remember that? Like the whole purpose of memory is to actually like create something like practical. And I think the idea that when things go wrong, it's a form of flood. It's like everything gets turned upside down, like everything kind of becomes chaos. You know what I mean? The ground is no longer the ground that it
Yeah,
was.
there is
And
a story in
everything
Greek
becomes flawed.
mythology.
Huh?
There is a story in Greek mythology
Mhm.
that once, everyone was so happy. So what Zeus actually did is he released plague and basically all the notorious things into the realm, so that everyone was after that release, everyone was unhappy and poor, and all the evil vices kind of started from that. That's the Greek theory about it. That was like so Zeus gifted a box to some earthling, and she was told not to open it, and she opened it, and all the vices were spread. That is a theory.
Is that
So
Pandora's box?
what?
Is that like Pandora's box?
Yeah, I don't really know.
Okay.
Maybe, I guess. But it's something like that. So, some things are common in religions.
Hmm.
And I find that pretty interesting because, and then I read all the religions, and that makes me think that do the timelines match? Like the time of the biblical flood. In the Hinduism, at the time of biblical flood, there was a vast empire. So where did that go? Something like that. So that is what makes me wonder that,
So wait,
okay, I think this is
there's
wrong.
there's an empire. I mean, this is I feel like we're getting into a way that it's not the most it's not the way that it's supposed to be understood. But like there's an empire before the flood. I mean, I wouldn't say the word empire, but that's what the but I don't remember the name of the cities, but I thought there was terrible cities committing sins, and that's one of the reasons why God sends the flood in the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of seems, what
And
I
like the
think
point here is
that,
that like even before it was written down, I mean, it made what's this point, but like there have been flood myths since the beginning of time. It's like pretty much as far as we know, right?
yeah, I mean, it could be that, the moon came a little bit closer and caused the tidal waves and the flood. It could be
I'm not even saying that like
because
it
because tidal
it's
waves
not
are
it's
caused
not
by the
really
moon.
describing specific events. It's describing meta events. Like the flood happens in many ways. Like in a way, like the flood happens in your daily life when you get behind your bills that you should have paid, and you say you're underwater. You say you're psychologically underwater, and it's a feeling. It's the way that the world manifests to you. Like water is just the ancient term for chaos in a way, and
Yeah,
it
because
drowns people.
there was
You know what I
nothing
mean?
else that they
That's
could
what I mean. It's these
actually.
categories that are fundamental to relate to everyone and across time. You know what I mean? So that I guess
Yeah,
that's
because
better.
water can give life and take life. I think that's the reason they did it.
Yes. Water's also
So
it's part of a cleaning process. You know what I mean? You go in the bathtub and all the things that are dirty and not useful about you. Yeah, it's part of purification. Get washed away, and then afterwards you're renewed, clean again. It's also part of it. Like even anthills will do this. Like I think it's deeply lodged in our psychology because anthills, when the rain comes, it collapses everything and then it puts it into a state of potential that allows them to properly renew it and build a better structure afterwards. Um,
yeah,
but there's also the
I
idea
get
that
it.
what you do in a case when things are about to go haywire is that you collapse everything and pour into a seed that will resurrect afterwards in the new world and then fill up the world with God's kingdom again, say.
Talking about resurrection, do you believe in the afterlife?
Uh depends on what you mean. That has nothing to do with my um I'll say this when I'm doing the right things and I'm on the path, people often say that like, oh well, it's just going to be like before you were born. When I feel like when I'm doing the right things and I'm like really in the right moment, I doesn't feel like I was ever. It doesn't feel like my life had a beginning. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think there is something a bit of an illusion to death in a way. Because like honestly, I think that every time I go to sleep, I'm actually dying and I'm waking up as a new person. And I think that's actually happening moment to moment. And like Do you know about
Yeah,
like
that is kind of because your brain kind of shuts down a little, I think. And when you die, your brain shuts down completely. But yeah, there is
well,
also
no,
that
okay.
that when
Well,
you
it's like
die, your
not that's not
brain.
really what I'm saying. Like, okay, do you know like the about like the Star Trek teleporter paradox? Like the idea that it's like, well, it's completely pulling you apart and then manifesting you again. It's like, are you the same person after?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, I
you
know.
could even take that a step further, like, okay, what if it did that and then it made two of you afterwards with different molecules? And obviously, like it's saying it has to be the same molecules, that doesn't have to be relevant because like I'm in a completely different material every year. So I think the idea that the consciousness is, well, our understanding of the self seems like something like a useful illusion that evolution created. Like I don't actually, I think there is something like one self. The evolution is actually it's a truth toward evolution that evolution's realizing. Like there are all sorts of creatures that can essentially just link up together and then become one and then share consciousness and then or just split in half and then become two
Yeah,
different beings. And so like I'm not saying that like when you have kids that's like directly your consciousness like splitting off. I think it's more complicated than that because like really I think the best way to find what you are is like a pattern of being in the world. And it doesn't really matter what that matter is made of and whatever state you're in, it can only exist. That pattern is only obviously because that's the pattern is what this is what defines it. It's only made up in that state across time. So if you're in a pattern of behavior that's meaningless in hell, it's like well that's your identity and that's where it exists eternally. Is the way I understand it. So like I don't think that like that me John will wake up at any point. You know what I mean? It's just to the degree that I align myself with Christ, that's something that's eternal. Is the best way I can put it. Um, I don't want to like, yeah, well, that's the best way I put it. I don't want to say too much because like you should be careful about talking about things that you really don't understand and like, well, I can't make any, like, I know that element is correct, but I don't want to like, 'cause I don't know, because there's also the idea of like Platonic
yeah,
forms. It's
because
like, well,
that's
is
how
heaven a
we
place of Platonic
currently.
forms in some way? You know what I mean? Because the idea of heaven is different from the resurrection. And I'm mostly talking about something that I think more has to do with the resurrection. So I don't know. I don't really think about heaven. I don't focus on heaven except for it's something that I'm going to serve the place beautiful in the future. That's kind of the great thing about it. A place of pure consciousness and light or something like that. I don't really think about it in a like when I die
Okay.
because like I'm honestly assume that I'm not, especially right now that I'm not. I'm there's no reason why I should be allowed in heaven. I haven't done enough. So that's something I think about.
So I don't think you deserve hell either. So is there a middle ground or something?
I don't know, man. I'm reading Dante's Inferno with the class online. Um, I'm not sure how in Dante's Inferno there's levels, there's purgatory, and then there's like levels to heaven and then levels to hell, um, based on your sins. I'm
You
not
see,
sure.
that's the concept they had to invent to keep people in line. Because, people do say that Hitler was religious, and some people say he wasn't religious. That really doesn't matter. But
I don't think he
if
was.
he was a bit religious,
He loved Nietzsche. He had a
and
statue of Nietzsche in his
if,
office.
yeah, I mean, if he was religious, someone might have manipulated him. Someone could have manipulated him to not kill these many people. The Genghis Khan, I think he killed more humans and something
Yeah,
like that.
but
So motivation
yeah.
that a creator will watch you and get you in hell if you do certain things like that. But I don't like this that if atheists don't believe in God,
No,
they'll
the thing
get
is,
hell.
I don't think you can even. It's even worth focusing on the idea of. I mean, yeah, okay. I think I believe in eternal like damnation, but like I don't think Hitler was a happy dude. Like I think he was living in hell, and you could tell by the fact that that's the way he ended his life with suicide. And suicide is an indication that I think you were living in kind of the worst time of existence, and it's really sad, honestly.
Yeah.
But although I think that like there's a place that you kind of deserve it because I think what people are doing with committing suicide is they are just trying to like cause a lot of chaos and trouble in the lives of people around them. I think that a lot of times they're trying to do that. And Hitler, I think, was trying to cause a lot of hell and suffering and stuff. Like I see him as a destructive, unhappy force. I don't think that he was deeply religious. I mean, I think that I think that he replaced his religious instinct with something like a worship of like the body of the state. Because I think often happens, there's a theory from a guy named Ernest Becker called the denial of death. And it's that when people
Yeah,
basically lose, yeah, exactly. So basically they
I
create
know.
totalitarian structures here in the here and now and try and link it up with something solid and eternal here. You know what I mean? This is I think what's going on there. So
It's
he tried to,
important in
huh?
the diversity. It's actually important for people to believe in this stuff because, if there
We
are
are
people
part of that. We are
who
part of
ask
something larger.
questions,
It just has to be the
this is part
largest,
of the process.
goodest. That's
So, denial of death, that theory, I like the theory. And, why I don't believe in recreation is because we currently think that consciousness is our brain's neurons actually talking with their network. We currently think that's what consciousness is. And we have a scientific backing to that, when there is a stroke, a brain stroke, people can't respond and, the functions of the body are altered or they're different, and they can see that the brain is affecting every single part of the body. That makes me think that yes, brain is, if not consciousness, a part of consciousness. And we do have to think about that if the brain dies, that means there is no consciousness. That's what we currently think. It might transfer because there's also that theory that consciousness transfers,
obviously
and
does. I mean, it's
it could
obviously.
be.
I mean, it's obviously just. Yeah. Well, like anyway. Sorry. Continue. But yeah, I agree that like that I'm not sure if I would say that consciousness is in the brain, although just for speaking like simply, that's like a good just like shorthand of talking about like when you're talking about things in neuroscience, you know what I mean? Because I have a hard time saying that like your anger is not connected to like your amygdala or something. But like I tend to think, and this is, I mean, this is getting into territory where I'm not sure how fruitful it's going to be, but I tend to think that consciousness exists outside of the universe and generally just on the reasonable prospect that you can't find it anywhere. And so it seems like it's something that's from the outside that comes in. I don't know what I mean by outside. I'm not saying like just if you go far enough, you can see a channeling. Like I don't know. It just and I also tend to be kind of a panpsychist, I guess, because like the things that consciousness does is just on a scale of that you can look at physical things that goes down all the way just to just simple like single atoms. Because essentially, like what the way I see the universe, and there's good evidence for this, good research-based evidence that everything is just seeking homeostasis, that it's just taking the path of least action to reach homeostasis. That's what like rocks are doing. Um, but as things kind of scale up, they try and seek homeostasis through time. And so an organism can go around and do something more difficult to get at a more stable state afterwards. And so I believe that like, I mean, I actually believe that my body is conscious because like everything, it's all problem solving and complex problem solvers. Like in a way, that's really actually really cool. Like especially during embryogenesis, there are reasons why your cells become they become more defined as you differentiate and become older. So they're not as good at like collapsing and solving new things. But even when you're a kid, you can regrow like the tips of your fingers and things like that. But during embryogenesis, you can like cut the embryo in half and it doesn't build two half humans because all the cells are actually intelligent problem solvers and have like a rough map that's something like it's in the genes. No, it's not. Okay, that's not correct. It's not really in the genes. It's an electrical map. Um, but they'll create two separate organisms afterwards. And even with frogs, if you cut off their arm and then you can stimulate the genes to grow it again, they won't grow in the same
Yeah.
pathway. They'll grow out like a tree. You know what I mean? And so they're intelligent problem solvers that basically say like, okay, we need to build something like this, and they take that step. It's like, okay, no, I need to move over here if I want to build this correctly, and they're not really sure what they're doing. But like you can use that analogy to like humans building a church on another level. You know what I mean? It's like we're not really
Yeah,
sure. There's no like, so and like okay, we can't, yeah, yeah. And so I think that sort of like active confrontation with the the uncomputable potential of reality, because it's not it doesn't happen in a way that's just like completely algorithmic, because my understanding is that's because of quantum indeterminacy, and so you actually have to have it's actually confronting novel things and making new decisions. This is the way I think.
there
Sorry.
there is a company called Synchron, and that company thinks that they can download your brain and get that into a computer and kind of make you a sort of AI of
Yes,
yourself. And they think they can
I
transfer
believe that they
consciousness.
think they can do something like that. So, and I think
I
they
mean,
probably
that
can do
is
something like
theoretically
that, but that strikes
possible.
me as
That
dangerous as fuck.
that is kind of theoretically possible that your thoughts can be downloaded. But I don't think that that person, that robot in which your memories are put into, will be you. I mean, if they kill you, I don't think that you will wake up in that robot because
Well,
you're still not biologically connected. That's what I think.
I feel like that's I mean, like I think that that's part of the illusion of the way we oftentimes understand consciousness. And I think that's a useful fiction, because I think that like for the longest time, like we had to be very concerned with our self-survival. And so I think consciousness evolved, like, or at least the brain evolved to view the self having boundaries of just, well, this is me. But actually, I don't think that that's the truth. And we're actually hanging out in something that's actually not going to be fruitful in a way that's going to move forward, I guess. Because I mean, is the version of yourself from when you were a kid alive? And then if I grow out a twin version of myself and it splits off into two people, it's like we're both me. You know what I mean? Like, and that actually does happen when you have kids in a way. It's like like you could split me in half. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, in both sides could be
Like
conscious.
cloning, like
Yeah,
cloning someone.
like cloning, I guess. So I mean, I think that that's just like I think that you could do that, and that version in the computer. I mean, I don't want to. I have very big qualms about like a good portion why I'm doing this podcast is because like that people are rushing dangerous technologies because they're so afraid of death that they're trying to, well, they're going to build a Tower of Babel. It's going to kill everything, or make a
Yeah.
it's going to essentially going to make a portal to hell, and monsters are going to come out. Like I actually believe that, not a portal to hell as far as a portal to just any sort of potential that will come out of. I guess anything can come out of. I guess so. I'm saying. Um,
So do you think that heaven is a physical place?
oh, heaven's definitely not a physical place. I mean, as far
It's
as
a state of mind. It is a state of mind.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't know how that relates to depth at all. Like I said, I don't really think about heaven. Um, I'm not sure it's not something that I make claims about. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's something that I can feel sometimes, I guess. But like biblically, heaven is just everything in consciousness, basically. It's everything spiritually and like meaning and well, yeah, and meaning and things like that, and spirit. You know what I mean? So that there's earth, that's what we're made of, but we're also connected to heaven in that like, well, like the names of animals, that's not a physical property. The names of animals, that's something that it's like an idea. So it also included ideas and abstraction as part of heaven, I guess.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
the animals are not actually evolved as we are, so they are not sentient enough to talk and think for themselves. They follow their routine. We can
I
sort of
think they still do.
mold.
I think they think and talk, not in the way that we do. I mean, they definitely communicate, a lot of them. I
So do
think
you think that they will evolve in the future more?
like towards to become humans or something. I don't
I
think
mean,
that like yeah, yeah. So like I do believe in I'm forgetting the word for this, but there's the idea that there's like consistent pattern shapes in evolution, so that like if the meteor didn't wipe out the dinosaurs, there's already dinosaurs that were like tree climbers with long tails and pretty dexterous fingers, and like, oh, that would have turned into a monkey. But for instance, like at the bottom of the ocean, there's a slug that, because there is nothing else filling out the niche of fish, the slug evolved to be a fish shape. So it has fins and it looks just like a fish. So that would be very unlikely because we're already filling up the niche and we're pretty dominant as far as human beings go. But like, I do think that if human beings all got wiped out, we'd be bad. Because I think that's where, yeah, something about us is very special, I'd say. um, and
So, have you
I
seen
don't
the
think
movie Lucy? Have you seen the movie Lucy?
I have not. I know about it though.
Uh, it's really great movie. It has Scarlett Johansson, so
Yes.
you might like it.
Oh
So,
yeah, I bet I
yeah,
would.
and it's about a creature, a human, basically, and the human was given a sort of drug which opens up the mind to 100% of its potential, which means you can use 100% of your brain. So in that movie,
That's
it
kind of a myth.
shows that,
We already do use 100% of our brain. That'd be a ridiculous way to evolve if we didn't. I mean, I could say that I think when you take like psychedelics, you could say that there's like a flooding of information that like all kind of comes together from, I think, from maybe your whole body, and that's why you have
yeah,
those effects.
there's a
But like,
scientific theory that when you sleep, your brain tries to delete every single thing. And then when you wake up, your brain tries to remember every single thing. That is actually it. That's actually a fact. That's a proven fact that your brain tries to delete everything
you
when you
should,
sleep.
you go to sleep, you try to believe everything. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
that
I
is
mean,
kind of like
I
that.
wouldn't say I tried. I mean, I don't know exactly what's happening there. I don't think that it's I tried to. I think there is some truth to that. I think that is right because I think what's happening is like it's essentially it's like a collapse of all your strict categories. You're taking all the information that you learn throughout your day, and like I don't know. I was like thinking it's like almost dissolving it, just dissolving it like a fluctuating pool, and then seeing how it all like fits together and to see what you can kind of forget. And then like a lot of I think what dreaming is it's important to forgetting the day before because then it kind of everything kind of collapses into water and then it's like okay what are the lessons that I can pull out and then it generates these weird stories and like okay what are the problems that are still here that are things that don't fit and it kind of tries to reconcile those things and it comes out in stories because everything in reality ends up being a story. But yeah,
You should see that movie, definitely,
I will,
because
I
I
will, I
think
will. My sister
that
loves
is
it.
a diverse perspective about humans. That's a very diverse perspective, and it's a really great movie. That a person that Scarlett Johansson plays the character, it unlocks 100% of her brain, and time by time, she can sort of control humans when she reaches like 40% of power of her brain. And it's kind of like stupid to think that someone could, control you and make you fly or something like that. But it has a diverse perspective. So it's worth watching. And when she unlocks 100% of her brain, she actually merges with the universe because the universe is everything about the universe. But for that, you have to consider that the universe is itself a conscious state or being. And then that relates to God again. That's what it is. Maybe the universe is God and he kind of made humans so that the universe evolved creatures to know itself, something like that. There
Yeah,
could be because there are people who are curious and want to know everything about the universe. I myself is very excited about our future, and I do think that we should occupy other planets and make life multiplanetary. So I do advocate that people should actually spend money on space exploration more than they do about these old rallies and something like that. And the political sector is actually terrible because, nothing has without political incentive, there is no will. Because, Trump could have banned abortion. I mean, Trump could have actually resurrected the abortion ban or something. I'm not from the US, so I don't exactly know the situation there.
Okay, gotcha.
But
I can explain it
he
briefly.
could have, he could have, take the abortion ban away when he was in power, but he didn't have to because there was no political incentive. And now that Biden wants to win, he has to sort of try to get votes, something like that. So it's like political incentive, like that. That's how they manipulate people with religion. Trump is kind of bringing its own Bible, I heard, the
Yes.
Trump Bible. So that's kind of manipulation, don't you think?
I have no idea what Trump's personal beliefs are. I mean, I know what he says, and I really can't say. I definitely think people definitely do use the Bible to manipulate people. That's is something that definitely happens, and I've seen it. And I've been to churches, and I've been there, and been like, oh yeah, this is the reason why I don't want to be here. Why I left a long time ago. I love being at church. I mean, that don't mean to say it like that, but that's why I like.
There's something spiritually,
But like, well,
you
I would
know,
say that like the Bible is a very, very, very powerful object. And when they're misusing it as a source of power, I mean, there are countless warnings in the Bible about using the Bible as a tool and a source of power. So insofar that
but they
people,
still do, and they are alive, and they're not
yes, yeah,
punished.
well, that's because it's just an eternal tendency and power of the tendency of humans. You know what I mean? And so, like, I mean, the idea that the Bible, I mean, Jesus was killed by the former church in a way, and killed by the former institution and believers and stuff like that. So like, there's definitely supposed to be, if it's actually understood and if you're actually a Christian, an understanding that these things can go wrong and tilt to power if you're not renewing them properly and looking at
Yeah,
them.
you see, there's a problem in the resurrection. You see, for 3 days, I mean, we know that the brain stays active even after you die. Suppose you get a heart attack, your brain stays active for 9 or 10 hours after your heart stops beating.
Mhm.
But that's 10 hours. And how the hell did Jesus's brain stayed alive for like 3 days and then he came back? So
I think
people
that's one
call
way to understand it. Is what I would say. Um,
that's kind of
I would refer more to what I
impossible.
was saying about earlier about the idea is that which you I'm worried about saying this. How do I say this correctly? Like, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't seem like the right way of understanding what it is, I guess. That's all I can say. Like
Okay, yeah,
Jesus is physically resurrected fully in body. But
how? That's is my question. That is
how?
physically not possible by the laws of the universe. So that means that God broke its own laws. If God made the universe, he made the laws. And if he resurrected himself, because Jesus was him, basically.
Okay,
So
well,
God resurrected itself by breaking the laws of the universe. I don't think that's possible.
I'm not saying the laws of the universe were broken at all. I'm not saying
How
that
is
at
that
all.
possible?
I mean, okay, well,
So
first of
either
all,
that could be that Jesus was dead and then he was resurrected in 3 hours instead of 3 days. There could be a possibility, something like that. Do you think that?
well, I think that how do I put this? Like the only fundamental pattern in the universe is death and resurrection, because everything changes. And so the only pattern that stays constant is death and resurrection.
But
Excuse me. Like
stars stay
even
back.
there's strong people like Penrose and Tesla who essentially believe that the universe is even cyclical, that it works on the principles of death and resurrection, basically, and that the only
Yeah,
things that tile out are the things that work. Um, but whatever.
but if the death and resurrection is how the universe works, that means everything is predetermined. When you're going to die, it's predetermined. When you're going to resurrect, it's predetermined. How you
What?
this entire
That's no,
talk
no,
is
no, no. What do
predetermined.
you mean?
It's not
What?
something like that. That is the theory that if everything was already planned. That means if God wrote this, that we have to talk, if God wrote that you and I were supposed to talk in a Zoom call and it's happening, that means that everything is predetermined. and there is
I,
a model for
I
the
don't think there's
universe.
any reason to understand. I'm not sure what the justification for that is biblically, that God like wrote down this conversation. Like I think that like God's omniscient and he knows everything, but the universe is predetermined. We do have free will. I mean, I think that he knows our hearts in a way. And I think that like I don't know, that's at a level of abstraction that like I don't think I could comprehend, I guess. Um but yeah, I don't we know the universe is not predetermined. We know that because we have free will and we make decisions. And there are plenty of stories in the Bible where well, God will say one thing and people either argue with him and change his mind, or he seems surprised or learns new things. And so those are just ways of relating and understanding God, but we can't fundamentally understand him. Like, you know what I mean? So like, but I don't think the universe is predetermined, except for in the fact that like
So
I know that Christ will always be resurrected. That is like one of the few things I do know, because Christ basically is the pure good and the pure beauty, and without that, the world can't exist. I don't think. I mean, because part of what truth is I mean, on a practical level, truth is just it's what works. I'm just trying to put it on a practical level, you know.
yeah,
So
I mean, there is this model, and there's another theory. I don't think it's proven yet, and I don't think we'll be able to prove it. That if I'm not saying that we don't have free will, we definitely do because that's how I speak. I think we have free will because I could have told you no that I don't want to talk, and I did tell you yes that I want to talk. That I think that is the free will, so like that.
yeah, well, I would
So
just say that, yeah, sorry. Well, the universe is not deterministic, and like you're actively, if you are saying that there's a direct link between our neurons and our consciousness, then that means that you are actively for the first time like experiencing the novel thing and then like making a decision and then processing based off the history. It's like your consciousness is partly that process. And so like to say that like, you know what I mean? So like, you know what I'm saying? It's happening in real time. I know Penrose has some theories that it's like it's tied to quantum that well I
yeah,
don't think that's necessarily
yeah, that is the
it's
thing that,
tied to quantum
Even Einstein did not believe that there was a possibility that we can predict what's going to happen next. That means that we can't basically, we should not be able to tell how a particle would behave in the future by predicting its next moves.
yeah.
Therefore, there is a particle. They're building the particle accelerators to discover dark energy. The Hadron Collider, you might have heard about at CERN, and they built that collider to study about dark matter and its effects on the universe. We don't know what is causing the expansion. I mean, something is causing the universe to stretch. That's basically a thing. And that's how the universe is actually going to end. If you might not have heard about this, just search on YouTube the Big Rip, RIP. And that basically says that the universe's expansion rate will be beyond our control and it will pull the atoms apart. And that's how the universe will end. That's one of the
Yeah.
theories.
And then
So,
yeah.
so
No,
if,
no. Well, first of all, I would say two things. One, and like these are equally like I don't really think about that much. But like one, you could kind of just say, well, there's a lot we don't know yet, and
yeah, we
you know
don't.
what I mean. So there's a lot that could we don't know what we don't know, and that's a long ways off. So there's no rush. But
Yeah, I don't want people to discover that the universe is predetermined before I die. I just don't want people to do that because I can't live with the fact that everything I do is already supposed a part of a chapter which is being played like a movie.
yeah,
I don't want my life to be like that. But that's what Einstein did not want either. But his friend Niels Bohr believed that the universe could be predetermined because
I mean,
he
it's
kind
like
of,
a movie that you're watching for the first time, I would say.
I know.
You know what I mean? That you don't know
Yeah,
how it's gonna end. You know, it's not, yeah, but you're not trapped in
I
a
really
box, you know.
yeah, I really hope not.
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
want to
no.
be.
I don't think I don't think that makes sense.
I mean, there could be a physical barrier, that we are not supposed to go beyond. I mean, you might not know this, but we can only populate our galaxy. There is no way with any technology that we can go to another galaxies and sort of get humans there. That is not possible because the time it will take for us to build that technology, by that time, our galaxy and other galaxies would have there will be more distance between the galaxies. Like the closest one to us is Andromeda, and that is going to collide with
Sorry.
us.
For the reason I was thinking solar system. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's fine. The galaxy is pretty big. Well, there's also gonna well,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is pretty big.
Um.
And that is a problem. If everything is expanding, we know it's expanding because we researched on it, and the Hubble tension
Yeah.
of the telescope tells us that the universe is expanding. So I really hope that it stops. The expansion either stops or at least slows down, because if it doesn't, we might never ever preserve human consciousness. Because yeah, we can occupy the galaxy. Then there's this series called The Expanse on Amazon Prime that says that we occupied the galaxy. Now what? We can't occupy anything beyond that because it's too far away, and due to the expansion rate, even if we left now, we would never reach it because it will constantly accelerate beyond our speed limit. And that is a problem. So that is another point which makes me think that a physical barrier is not going to allow humans to go beyond our galaxy.
Like
So
I
kind of the
mean,
entire
like
universe
we're
is
talking like how many billions of years from now? Like 100 billion or something? Like
kind of like 100 million, because after
100,
100
billion
billion
or billion?
million, I think.
100 in 100 million years?
Yeah, I
Are you sure
think
it's not billion?
no, because I think in 100 billion years the universe will end due to the heat death.
No,
It's called
100
the heat
billion? No, it's way
death.
longer than that. Universe is that would
It
mean
is
the
actually
universe is almost already done. Universe is what? I mean,
uh,
from what we know now, the universe is 13
13.8.
billion
Yeah,
years.
what we know now, that is kind of like the thing. That we think the universe is 93 billion years across. That's the length of the universe. And
It's
we think
92
that
billion
it's
years across.
93 billion light years across. I mean, the length.
Okay.
We measure the length in light years. We currently think, but we have named it observable universe because that's how far light has went. We don't have
So, but
light
like,
that
but
came.
I'm saying that are you saying that the point at which we can't reach other galaxies is 100 million years away? Or are you saying that the heat depth is 100 million?
No, uh,
I'm pretty sure it's in the
he,
billions. Which like, hey, we can't think about either
yeah,
of those numbers
yeah,
right
it is in billions.
now. Okay.
I think in 100 million years we will occupy our entire galaxy,
Oh, okay.
our galaxy,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
only the Milky Way. But by the time we do that, Andromeda will collide with us, and kind of
Okay,
the
that's
poles will shift. That galaxy is going to collide with us. So
oh,
somehow, human consciousness might end. That is what I'm saying. Somehow,
um,
there should be a
okay.
filter,
I mean,
or there is a reason that only we are the conscious beings in the entire universe. Because if we are not, an alien would have occupied the galaxy by now. Or we are maybe like, yeah, there is a filter and the aliens reached it and they died. Let's say that filter is AI. Maybe, I'm not saying it should, but it could be the filter.
I think it's likely something like that.
Because
Yeah,
think
like I
about
said,
this.
I think
If
that
an
like
AI, think about this. If an AI could outgrow you, which means think beyond the entire consciousness of the humans, we predict that that's going to happen in 5 years, just 5 years, that every single human on the planet will be dumb in comparison with an AI. I don't think we want that. I don't think, because AI could not develop emotions. So what would it do if it has all the knowledge humans don't? So I don't
Exactly.
think that
No,
should happen.
yeah. We're constructing a god that's a demon. Like,
Yeah,
the way I see it.
yeah,
Yeah,
basically that's right.
yeah. And like,
We are constructing something which is intelligent than us,
yeah. And I think we should
intellecting us,
be
not
people
a
want, like
single
you said
human.
earlier, it's like, well, people want to be granted eternal life. And so, like, when I think about
Yeah,
the movie, it's like, oh yeah, there's this like old crazy king who's afraid of death, who's like going to the ends of earth to have his wish granted by like an evil, crazy spirit. You know what I mean? It's like that's the way I think about it. It's like, oh yeah, that's gonna
yeah,
end
that's the
well.
question. If
Yeah.
there is a pill, if there is a pill which kind of grants you eternal life, or it kind of grants you your life extends it 100 years or so. So like you live for 200 years. Will you take it?
No.
Me neither, because I don't think that's the way.
Yeah.
I think humans are supposed to die in 100 years maximum. That's how our cycle is supposed to go. Either there is a afterlife or not. I think we should. Zuckerberg does not think
Well, I
that.
know that there's
Zuckerberg
life
thinks,
after me for sure. You know what I mean? And I know that like, yeah, like there's a, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of drawbacks from me living 200 years. Like, are you saying that like I'm if we like, yeah, whatever. I would just rather have kids. Call it good.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what I think either. So, yeah, because you will grow. You can live, but you will grow and you will grow old, and you won't like to live in that state. But let's think that you are 24 right now, I think, right? Yeah, so let's give you a
Well, it's
pill which kind of stops your aging. We give you a pill that stops your aging at this current state.
mhm.
How long before you yourself decide that you don't want to live anymore?
I mean, if I was in this current state forever, I'm not sure what would happen. I know that my understandings would probably become stale. Like, and this is a hard way to think about, because there's so many like, questions to be asked. You know what I mean? Like, because in a way, like I think that human beings, like you said, I think that to some degree death is an illusion. I think like the self is kind of a weird illusion in a way. So I think like when we're dying, like when we're dying, we're just engaging in part of this renewal process. It's like my understandings have become stale, the way I see the world has become stale, and I need to just take what worked and then collapse it into something small, and then let it rejuvenate and fill the world again in a better way, and repeat that process. And so like if you're saying I just take a pill that allows me to just be like awake forever, like I don't know. That's it.
Yeah, because that's actually what people are trying to do. Because Mark Zuckerberg is actually investing in a company that is kind of trying to invent something like that.
I believe it. I believe it. I mean, yeah. There's a lot of interesting research in that sort of place, but
And
like,
that's kind of like, have you heard that there is this animal, and I'm trying to remember the name. It's something bear. It's a bear. I'll find that. And that animal could resurrect itself. It does not die at all.
oh, you talking
So
about planaria, planaria,
no,
flatland. There are lots
there
of
is
creatures
an
that do this. I'm guessing lots of small creatures.
yeah, there are some creatures who kind of reincarnate themselves, which means their cells die, but before they die, they replace those cells. That is something they can do.
I mean, we
And
do
if
we do that
we
within our own
copy that,
lifetime, and then like, well, but the reason why we work better is because we're caught on this. We're caught up to the cycle of the cosmos, the way I see it, and that we're actually, well, we just collapse what works, and we're able to die, and then resurrect ourselves. I mean, not really resurrect ourselves like that. It's not in that really archetypal sense, but in the sense of in the sense of our children, and not even our direct children, but like it all
Yeah,
goes
because
through
that's what I
we
think.
act as
How
father
do we
parents
decide
or
how we are?
Hmm?
That's what I think. How do we decide how we are? Which means when you were born, did you knew how you are going to be in the future? Of
when I
course
was born.
not. That's what I think. When you were born, when you were little, like a day or so,
Yeah, no.
so you did not knew that you're going to be like this, you're going to look like this, your DNA is going to be different, your blood group is going to be. You did not knew that, right?
No, no, no.
And that was a mystery to you before you were told. That was a mystery before you were told that you have whatever the blood group type you have. You are a male, or yeah, something like that. You were told. You were told about those information and then you believe. So imagine a person living on an island and that person was never told that there is a God or a creator.
Mhm.
Now, would that person actually think that he was made, or would that person think that he just popped out in existence? That person does not know about birth. That person
I
does
I
not know
mean
about.
I don't think that person would just be an animal. Without like socialization, you just be an animal. And you'd actually learn and adapt because like the
Exactly.
body's very plastic like that. And so like even as a kid, if you're just by yourself, you probably wouldn't even develop speech. You'd just be, an animal.
Yeah, because you are never taught culture. You might actually develop your
I think
language.
animals are really religious in a way. I do think that.
What?
I think animals are religious in a way. Yeah. I mean,
I mean,
obviously that we are,
they
but like
could be.
they're especially the social animals. It's easier to make the argument for because like I mean, like when people are like swaying at a concert and then feeling, okay, where do I need to go? This way, it feels good because like we have all these meetings of the music and the dancing, all that like stacked up. It's like, oh yeah, well, like bees and all sorts of creatures are doing that. Like birds are doing that when they're going around.
Yeah,
It's sort of
they
like
kind of the
the
birds
brain
actually
systems are
follow this
turning on and
sequence,
everything. And they're very
the
old,
Fibonacci
very old
sequence.
systems.
Yeah, birds actually follow this sequence when they fly. It's called the Fibonacci sequence. You might have heard about that. And that's found everywhere in the universe, which is kind of crazy that, okay, this value is the same, that value is the same. And when we measure a galaxy with the Fibonacci sequence, it's the same. So
Wait, I didn't know that. Sorry, can you say
there
explain
is
that again?
something. Yeah, so there is this sequence called Fibonacci sequence. If you search about that, you'll find it. So
How's that spelled?
that sequence is everywhere, which
What's
means
the, how do you know
even
how
the
the sequence is?
birds.
Sorry, I was asking, do you know how that sequence is? How you spell that?
Hold on.
Okay, you're sure, sorry.
It's uh yeah, I think yeah, I found it. It's the spelling. I found the spelling, I guess. Have you kept the chats on?
Excuse me?
Have you kept the chat? Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're
All
still
right.
going. We're still going.
So
Oh,
this
I
is
see,
the
I see.
spelling.
All right. Thank you. And I've
And
never
this
heard.
right, yeah, Fibonacci sequence in nature. Just search about that, and it could be a photo. And that kind of it makes me wonder. It's really weird that this thing exists. It's called the golden ratio,
Oh,
sort of
oh,
like that.
okay. I know had a musical part to it.
Yeah. Could you turn on screen sharing?
Um, yes, I don't know if I know how. Um, uh,
You gotta go in host settings, I guess, and participant screen sharing. You gotta turn that on. Yeah, it worked. Uh, yeah, you can
oh,
see this. This is the ratio,
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, you might have seen this somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. I know
Uh,
about the golden ratio. I just didn't know.
yeah, so plants storms, sea shells, clouds, and the galaxy itself. We find this everywhere. That is kind of what makes me wonder. Yeah, this photo actually does it. So this 34 number that kind of relates with the galaxy, the 21 kind of relates with the clouds, and the 8 relates with the patterns of birds flying. So
Really?
I don't understand this. How is this possible? So there is a sequence which matches with everything. We try to create simulations, what I'm trying to say is we create simulations in a computer using this sequence, and they are so accurate, like literally so accurate that they give us the same value we use with creating bigger formulas. Like Einstein gave the general theory of relativity, and we kind of measured how big the universe is according to that. We use this sequence and we get the value of our galaxy, and it's so accurate, it's basically the same. And that sequence was found from a single plant when a researcher was working on a plant. And he was like, hey, this little equation is forming and the numbers are doubling, and something like this loop is being created. So that really makes me wonder that really are something, we are part of something big. As you said, we are meant to be something. Some people believe that we are servants of God, and some people believe we are servants of the universe as a God. We can consider that. But this sequence actually makes me question my belief because it's so accurate. And it came from a flower. A flower told us how big the universe is. How is that possible? So yeah, I think there is something bigger than we can understand. We are not supposed to understand that, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's that it. I have no idea what that is. What that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, too much knowledge is actually terrible, and
Well, it's true.
it is
It
terrible.
can, yeah. There's like optimal knowledge, you know. I think that, and I think like our knowledge will always grow. But I think it has to be always just revealed at the right time. I think, um, to be able to put it in perspective, I guess. And I think that, yeah, I think that people lost wisdom and lost purpose, and I think that we're trying to replace that with knowledge in order to like,
Yeah, the old culture, we forgot how to build the pyramids.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
seriously,
how do
seriously.
we, yeah,
How
because
do we
it
start a
wasn't,
project, like start a building or painting and be like, oh, like this won't be finished in my lifetime, but this is still important for me to do and I want to do this. Like the
yeah,
fact,
that's kind
yeah,
of,
yeah,
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 that is kind of weird that people actually do things like that. It's
yeah.
really weird.
Well, and yeah, I think, well, yeah, I think we'll, if we're not doing that, I see the apocalypse as being nigh, I guess. And so I'm trying to um help people see that they're part of just something that's a lot bigger, I guess. And to realize that
We
that
should be, yeah,
yeah,
we
yeah,
should be part of something big
yes, yes, yes.
because there's no
Well,
purpose
you
without
are
that.
whether you like it or not, you know. Like I think it's very useful to honestly think about human society as like a body in a way. And that like, well, if you're like an evil person, you're kind of like a cancer within the body in a sense. Like the actual definition for cancer is having a small sense of self. Like the cells aren't integrated well with the rest of the self of the body, and so they start doing their own thing. And
There's
so
a little algorithm behind that. Cancer cells are made in a single human, and every human every month makes 4 to 5 cancer cells. Your body is making cancer cells, and they die before they can mutate.
yes, yeah, 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 yeah.
And sometimes when it goes out of control and the cells mutate beyond that, and you get
Plus
cancer.
sugar makes it worse.
Yeah, I mean, I also believe that this getting cancer thing actually has like it's an algorithm. It's called an if else algorithm in computer language. I'm a computer engineer. I'm studying for computer engineering, so I kind of relate that. So it's like if this happens, end the program, or else do something else. That's kind of like that. So if you end this meeting, either the meeting ends or it restarts, something like that. That's what the algorithm says. And I try to relate that here. Um, so yeah, I did like that how you are reading the Bible and understanding it and actually using that as a moral perspective. And that is good.
Well, I
But
would say
some people take it quite different.
it's not just like a moral thing because I mean the reason why you can infer morals out of it is because it actually gives you a way to see things like and
Yeah,
on a behavioral level. It's not just see and actually, but also like the proper way of participating in reality. I would say because like I mean it contains within it like okay, what's a proper use of technology? What's a proper use of when to reveal things and how to approach things and things like that and how to um well like like there's I love the story this happens a couple times but when they go to a new city and he basically it's a weird story but he tells his beautiful wife Abram and also happens to I believe Isaiah but he tells his wife that hey if they ask tell them that I'm your brother and that way they won't kill me and that's like a
it's a
form
great story.
huh
And it's a great story which kind of gives us thinking. Yeah.
yeah
So you can use that everywhere, you know. You can use that in your daily life. That
yes
story. That
yeah
sometimes we have to bend things to get our way done.
yeah
Something like
well,
that.
yeah, but it's funny because he
And that
uses
helps.
that like that sort of like armor, I guess, in order to get and it's like a sort of a sneaking like cloak of invisibility you could think about. And he uses that in a sneaky way to get at the vulnerable spot at the king, because after then he's at the king's castle for a while. And then they kind of get together, you know what I mean? They get um
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
get it.
exactly. They kind of they get vulnerable together, you could say. And afterwards, when he finally learns that, oh, you are married, because he already knows the guy, he can't kill him. And so you even see that idea of, I was like, that's the same thing that happens in like all religious, and all, I'm sorry, but like in a lot of like The Hobbit that happens, where they use the cloak of like invisibility to get the vulnerable spot of the dragon. And that's just like there's a bunch of other movie examples that I was thinking about, and I was like, oh my gosh, and this is like a very base level version of that, I guess. Um, but like that's just the way reality works. You know what I mean? And so like actually I realized I had a problem with being and this is a lesson I had to learn a lot like last year, but I had a problem with being way too overly honest with people. Um, you know what I mean? And so you have to even learn how to like control that, I guess. And not necessarily lie, but just know how to reveal things in an awful way because you shouldn't just always just like leak everything out on the people. And that's something I'm still learning. Although I think I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah,
But
sometimes you have to sometimes you have to lie to get your way. Sometimes you have to do that.
I would say sometimes you have to lie not to die. That's more what I would say. Sometimes you have to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But always
yeah,
have the
because
righteous.
sometimes, yeah, I take this example. There's this example that if a couple is married and let's say the wife cheated on the husband once, that lie is kind of known by the husband, let's say, and he does not do anything that is bad on his side,
Yes.
that maintains the relationship. And let's say the wife actually came out, and let's just say that wife actually, let's imagine that it happened, something like that.
Mhm.
Then for saving the relationship, let's assume they have kids. And for saving them, they don't do anything crazy. And let's just say they have a child that can't move or something. It could help them if they don't split, let's just say. Then the moral compass used there is useful, I guess.
Well, I would honestly, that's hard. You know, you always have to figure out what it's going to be the proper, like, it's going to be a lot of variables, but you know, in a relationship, I think you should always be honest with your closest partner because like otherwise you're going to be like if you don't then you're like alone in the universe if there's like no one you can't share everything with. And I think your partner is supposed to be that person to help you like think through and walk through issues. So, you know, it's hard to say that you should be hiding things from your partner like that. Um, but I guess in the example I'm more thinking about is that lies are useful against snakes. Um, because yeah, because snakes will take advantage of your vulnerability. And so you need to cover up your vulnerability with sometimes with lies. Um, that's kind of the more example. But as far as someone who actually genuinely loves you, you should try to open up to them as much as possible. And of course, there'll be veils to that too, as far as how you reveal things, so you guys both just don't go crazy with how weird you both are. But I think as far as lying, and by the way, I feel like I need to give credit. There's a book called The Language of Creation by Matthew Pageau that I'm getting a lot of these understandings from. Um, I'm in the middle of reading it now, but also just reading a lot of his Twitter and people sending me things. I was like, oh wow, I never saw this element of it. Him and his brother, oh yeah, all that understanding came from his Matthew Pageau book. It's a great book. Um, so anyways, I just want to give it a shout
Sure,
out.
I will read that.
Huh?
Sure, sure. I like reading books, so do share me more books actually. It's
It's really
because
worth
my dad
reading.
is a publisher.
It's a religious book that's like made for well, it's tackling symbolism in such like a clear like way. It's a very short book too. Like you can tell he tried to get this like to as like simple and maybe not simple, but just as like straightforward as like possible. It's really cool to read. And the chapters are only like 2 pages per one, and it just really packed with like just solid ideas. And it's like, wow, okay. It's cool. It's cool.
What's the name again?
It's called the language of creation. A um cosmic analysis of the symbols of Genesis. Maybe I'm getting this right.
Yeah, I got it.
By Matthew
Matthew.
Pageau.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. He's like the wisest man on the planet, and he's just some guy who lives in the Canadian wilderness. You can find some videos of him on YouTube. Um, um, his brother, he does something a little different. But he has a YouTube channel. He does something completely different, I should say. Um, they're different people. I don't know why that's important.
Okay.
It's important. Um, but anyways, he has a really cool a YouTube channel where he breaks down a lot of symbolic. Well, he has a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and it is trying to he carves icons, and so he has a very deep religious understanding as well. I'd say, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
And I recently watched a kind of, I don't know what to call it, but there is a channel called NAS Daily, NAS, on YouTube, and that guy kind of made shorts beforehand, and now he has made this series in which he talks about religion. He studied religions one by one.
That's cool. NAS.
Yeah, he studied NAS, yes, NAS Daily, I guess that's the name of the
I've
channel.
heard that name before. I've heard that. That'd be worth checking out because like I can there's definitely a lot that I will not have time to. Like I'm just
Yeah,
looking to the
because
Bible right now because
he
like
learned
I
every single religion. He learned every single religion for 1 month. He has made videos like
I
that.
don't
Yes,
believe that's possible. But that's cool. I
he
know
did.
some
I
basic
mean,
stuff. So I have the greatest overview that I've been going through. I haven't started this part yet, but I can never say this right. Marchilia Iliada
it's actually
part two. I haven't started it yet. But he goes through a lot of religious ideas, and so this one goes more into well, this one just says from Buddha to Christianity, the triumph of Christianity. So, but the first one it starts off trying to figure out what we can know about even like Stone Age religions. It's really cool, like very early Stone Age, like like from the cave paintings and stuff. So it's cool. But yeah, and he's
But if you're interested in studying other religions,
huh?
if you are interested in studying other religions, hello,
Yeah. Sorry. Wait, sorry. Are you asking why am I interested?
hello.
Can you hear me?
Okay, no, I'm telling you, if you are interested in other religions, I mean, if you want to study other religions, you should really check these videos out. Yeah, I found the actually, yeah, here it is. I found the link to the entire playlist. Let me just share that. Wait,
Yeah.
why am I unable to
So I
share?
would say that while I'm interested in like just like knowing some stuff. As far as like a deep dive, like I'm just gonna be doing a deep dive into Christianity, maybe forever. But and the reason for that is I mean it's complicated. Uh, but I would say just from like a rational perspective, the way I see it is that the development of Christianity has an unbroken line that goes back to the beginning of religious development. While oftentimes cultures would kind of collapse and it would kind of become like integrated with something else, kind of collapse back into polytheism, or maybe not back, but it always was. And so it's still kind of developing in a way. Um, I see this as something that is you can almost trace a golden thread of thought to the beginning of time to Greece, and then it proves societies that actually seem to work really well. And I think the final one way you can tell that I think it can tell the full story of the universe really well is that as it spread, it did a great job of integrating a bunch of pagan religions into itself. And so it's like all these
Yeah,
like bits and like fractal understandings people had that the world had. It was like, oh, that cross you have, yeah, this is actually how it fits in the story. Oh, this is how you guys worship like the death and spring and all that, or should be the resurrection spring of all the nature. It's like here's the full element to the story, and the same thing happened. Well, yeah, but so people always talk about how there's all these pagan elements are in Christianity. It's like it's not necessarily that like the pagan elements like formed Christianity. It's that like the story was so full that it was able to contain them and fill it up itself up with them. I guess. Is
yeah,
it?
and I've seen Christians be more open to opinions. Seriously talking this, if I kind of say, let's say, an Islamic guy or a Hindu guy, and I kind of talk with them and tell them that, hey, your religion is like this. If I mock them, let's say, then they can't bear it and they uh, resort to violence. But Christianity takes it and they reply it calmly. I'm not talking about everyone,
Yeah.
but they are different, okay? I'll totally agree that Christians are different in a way, calm, I'll say, than the other religions.
Well, the only
And
Christian was a
exactly,
guy who literally gave up his life. Like I said, the only Christian, the only perfect Christian. You know what I mean? To let people
yeah,
torture him. And in that story, he could have not let that happen. You know what I mean? He's very powerful, obviously, but he just he's like, no, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to show the truth by letting you kill me. I don't know. It's very hard to understand. I don't know. That's something I obviously don't fully understand yet, so I need to do my thinking on that. But anyways, I have to go to work.
yeah, I understand that.
No, but
It was
it's
really fun. It was
it.
really fun talking to you, and we might do this again. We
I would
might
love
do
to.
this again.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I love that too.
Cool. I'm really glad you joined in. I thought um I thought you were Australian from your time zone, and then you're mysterying me mysterying me now after hearing your accent.
Yeah,
Don't tell me, don't ruin it, don't
yeah,
spoil it. I'll have to figure it out.
okay. Yeah.
But
You might not figure that out because I never post about my political things or anything. You might never figure this out
actually, I think
because,
I know where you're from. Now that I actually am paying attention. But anyway,
okay.
and I might know a region. But we'll
Okay,
save
go
that for
on.
later. Are
Try
you
it.
are you like near India or Pakistan or something?
You're close.
I that's I can't keep guessing.
Yeah, how do you know this? How do you
I
figure this out?
I've had I don't know, I've known a lot. I used to live in LA, so I've known a lot of people.
Okay, so yeah, I am from India.
You're from India. Okay, I dated a
Yeah.
girl who's Indian, and so
You did a good job, but how do you know this?
yeah.
Now I think you're a sorcerer or something. How do
Uh,
you know
how do I
that?
how do I know your act from your accent?
No, no. How do you know that I'm from India? That's what I'm asking.
Oh. Just I mean, I just from your accent, I guess.
Okay, that's really cool. You find
Like I
out.
said, I had
Okay,
I dated a girl who's Indian and like hung out with a lot of her friends and family and stuff. So I that's yeah.
good job. That's actually.
Got you. I'm heading out right now. All right.
Yeah, you gotta go,
Yeah, I
and
gotta
I
go.
would love to do this again. I would love to do
Please.
this again, and
Thank you.
goodbye.
Goodbye. Talk to you later. Bye bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.